So good day again, students. So we are now in our fifth module in our quarter 2, our practical research lesson. Okay, so this module is entitled Description of Intervention. So take note, so this is only applicable for through experimental research design or the experimental research design. So if your research design is experimental, so you will apply this intervention. So if your study falls on non-experimental, so you cannot apply this in your study. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Okay, in this module, so we have the following competency. The learner describes intervention if applicable. Okay, so we have here, so I have failing grades, I always come to school late, I feel difficulty in sentence construction, and oh, when will we have the vaccine against COVID-19? So these are just few of the problems that you have experienced or you have observed around. So common question is that, what will I do? Every time you have a problem, you'll be thinking of different ways to solve it, right? Experimental research, once you have identified and analyzed the problem, the intended intervention will be carried out. So you have learned it in your previous lessons that the use of intervention is one of the differences of experimental and non-experimental research. So the researcher applies treatment or intervention and does not observe the subjects in experimental research design. That is why the trademark of experimental research is testing the effectiveness of the interventions. Okay. Doing so, there must be a clear and complete description of an intervention that will be implemented in research. What will be your points of describing the intervention? So what do you think? So you have to describe the intervention clearly and completely. So later, so we will have a sample of the statements used in making interventions in a study. Okay. So let's try this. So read the situation and answer the questions below. So okay, this is the situation. So according to the World Health Organization, so one of the leading causes of illness and disability among adolescents is depression. Violence, poverty, humiliation, and feeling devalued can increase the risk of developing mental health problems. Building life skills in children and adolescents and providing them with psychosocial support in schools and other community settings can help promote good mental health. Programs to help strengthen the ties between adolescents and their families are also important. If the problem arises, they should be detected and managed by competent and caring health workers. Here we have these questions. Okay, number 1, according to WHO, what is the one of the leading causes of mental illness among adolescents? Okay, what's your answer? Okay, correct. It is depression. Okay. And number 2, what are the ways to prevent the adolescents from depression and suicide? Okay, the answer is, so we have here, so building life skills, providing support or the psychosocial support. Okay, then closing the strengthen of family ties. Okay, so these are the ways to prevent the said depression. Okay, so it's a form of intervention to avoid. Okay, so I hope it's clear to you what is now the meaning of an intervention. So it's a one way of solving your problem or the solution. Okay. Okay, let's proceed to our lesson. So description of intervention. So defining intervention. So intervention is the act of interfering to modify a process or situation. So in experimental research design, either quasi-experimental and true experimental, the independent variable is the intervention or treatment being tested. For example, an insecticidal effect, or herbicidal effect, a therapeutic technique, prevention program, or access to some support. Okay, so how about in your research? What is your research question? What is the research design? So will there be intervention? If there is no intervention in your study, I encourage you to continue. So anyway, it's better that you have known more about research. Okay, so as I said earlier, so intervention is only for experimental research design. So if your study uses descriptive, correlational, comparative, so you will have no intervention in it, okay, because it falls in non-experimental type. Okay, this is only applicable for experimental research design. Importance of describing the intervention. It is very important to describe the intervention clearly and completely. So this is because of the following reasons. A, replicability of study. So one of the pathways to confirm the validity of the study is by repeating the research that produced it. So when the result from one study is found to be consistent by another study, it is more likely to represent a reliable claim to new knowledge. That's why, so it's very important that your study also can be replicated. So that's why you need to state your intervention. So if you're having a experimental research design, so for other researchers to confirm your result, or they will try to replicate your study, so it's one way also of validating new knowledge, because so your results will be compared. So if they are the same, so it means it is a good study because it's consistent. Okay. Another B, effectivity of treatment. So one way to check the effectivity of the treatment is to conduct and follow the description on how the intervention is done. So that is it's important that complete details about intervention must be discussed in the research study. Okay, so later we'll have this sample details on how to state your intervention. So we have already a template, so all you need to do is to copy it and replace it with the necessary details needed in your study. Okay, so describing the intervention. As stated earlier, the implementation of an intervention must be described clearly and completely. So below are the points that you have to remember for you to be guided in describing the intervention. Okay, number one, how many groups are there? So describe the groups. If there are two, state the similarities and differences. So take note of that. And number two, what will happen to each group in the experiment that you intend to do? So discuss the procedure step by step. Okay, that is the second key point. Number three, explain what each sample will do in each step. So describe how long each of these steps will take. Okay, so this is already the duration of your intervention in both group. Okay, the group will receive intervention and the other will not receive. Okay, so you have the experimental group and the control group. Okay, so here is the suggested format that I mentioned earlier. So we have here this template. So there will be blank, so you state their number of groups. So both groups are blank, so you state the similarities. Then however, the experimental group blank, so you state here the difference of the two groups and the interventions used in each group. Okay, then while the control group, so states there differences or the groups using the intervention. Then every blank, okay, so how often is your intervention given within, then blank the length of time or the time frame. So it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks, etc. Experimental group, so they are blank. So explain what to do to the sample in each step. So you state here the procedures. So it must be clear because so if somebody will try to replicate your study, they know the steps. Okay, the detailed steps in replicating your study. Okay, so here's the sample. Okay, intro experimental research. So there will be two groups of plants used in the study. So both groups are composed of similar plants which will be watered daily. So as you can see, it's stated here the similarities. However, the experimental group will, so this is the intervention. exposed to sunlight. Okay, then however, while the control group will be kept away from the sunlight. So as you can see in this sentences here, so we begin with the intervention given to the experimental group, then it is followed by the control group. Okay, so in here, so control group does not receive any intervention. Okay, so then the duration, so every once a week for 4 weeks, so the height of the plants will be recorded. Okay, so this is the steps. So I'll explain what to do to load each sample. Okay, that is under true experimental. So now go to quasi-experimental research. So same format. So there will be two groups used in a study. Both groups are grade 11 students of a public urban school. So these are the similarities of the two groups. Then state the difference between the experimental and the control group. So however, the experimental group will participate in the nutrition education program. So this is your intervention. So nutrition, the garden and gardening activities. Then, so what will you do to your control group? Control group will receive no intervention. Then, how often? Every once a week within 12 weeks. That's all the duration. Then, what will you do to each variables? So there will be a garden discussion activities such as planting, maintaining, and harvesting vegetables. Okay? So I hope it is clear to you. So the ways to state your intervention in your experimental research. Okay? So let's have this activity. Okay, let's do this. Okay, instruction, read, analyze, and choose one situation below. Describe the intervention using the suggested format. So the format is given earlier. So I will just give a recall. Okay, this is the format. So I hope you have screenshot this or look at it in your module. Okay, so let's have here this invitation. So here is a clinical trials update of Aldemo 2020 about the potential of virgin coconut oil or the BCO to cure COVID-19 in Philippines. So I think you're familiar with virgin coconut oil. So the Department of Science and Technology, the OST, reported that the BCO trials in Santa Rosa Community Hospital in Laguna involving individuals or suspect and probable COVID-19 cases already registered 6 participants as of May 5, 2020. Out of the target 90 individuals to be involved in the study subjects will be divided into 2 groups. So 45 groups in group 1 will receive BCO mix and with the food, and 45 groups in group 2 will serve regular meal. Okay, so those are the difference in the intervention. So I hope you get the idea here. So the BCO study will last for 28 days from day 1 to day 3. The participants will take the BCO once during breakfast. After day 4 to day 28, the maintaining dose will be twice during breakfast and lunch. Okay, so those are the facts in this given situation. So, okay, so I want you to make your own detailed intervention here. So given this situation, so you supply the missing data here. So the number of groups, the similarities of the groups, the difference, and the intervention, the duration, the length of time, then explain what to do in each of the group. Okay, so you have your situation. Okay, you answer now. Okay, so let's check. Okay, here. So say answer. So I hope so you check your work there. So there will be 2 groups used in the study. So both groups are composed of So 45 participants who are suspect and probable COVID-19 cases. So these are the similarities. However, the experimental group will receive BCO mix with the food, while the control group will serve with regular meal. And the duration. So every once during breakfast from day 1 to day 3, and twice during breakfast and lunch from day 4 to 28. Within 28 days, the participant will take in the virgin coconut oil. Okay, so I hope you get the correct answer in the exercises we have. Okay, so let's have again another exercise. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Okay, so let's have another example, number 2. So one group of grade 12 researchers would like to find out whether or not using short stories significantly improve the speaking achievements. So a quasi-experimental study is used in this research to assess students' speaking achievement. So the researcher will use the SOLOM or Student Oral Language Observation Matrix, which comprising of the aspect of speaking ability such as comprehension, vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, and fluency. 40 grade 11 students will be selected as the sample, in which each group consisted of 20 students respectively. Treatment, which is the speaking test, will be used in this research and will be given twice a week for 14 meetings. The students will be asked to choose one of the speaking topics provided in the form of monologue. So since both classes will be given a pre-test and post-test, so each group will be given the same speaking topics for the speaking test. Okay, so the same process, you give here your detailed intervention following this format. Okay, you can start now. Okay, let's check your work. Okay, so there will be two groups used in the study. So both groups are composed of 20 grade 11 students, with one will be given with a pre-test and a post-test with the same speaking test. So however, the experimental group will be asked to choose one of speaking topics or short stories, while the control group will receive no intervention. So every twice a week for 14 meetings, the treatment, which is the speaking test, will be given. Okay, so those are the answers in our exercise. Okay, so I hope it is clear to you. So about the process in making a detailed intervention for your research. Okay, so let's remember this. So intervention is the act of interfering to modify a process or situation, so known as a treatment and experimental research design. Number 2, intervention must be described accurately and properly due to the following reasons. So replicability of the study and effectivity of treatment. Okay, so then you answer this. Let's test ourselves. So the same as in our activity earlier. So we have here situation 1. Garlic has been claimed that it has a potential to improve the brain function, particularly memory, recall, and consolidation. So to test this hypothesis, the researcher will use 20 male and female white mice, so categorized randomly as to control or experimental group. Then the experimental group will be given meal with pound garlic, and the other will receive no intervention. So they will weigh and they will make to accomplish a simple maze every end of the month within 3 months. Okay, so you make the detailed intervention here following the same format. Okay, so let's check your answer. Okay, here, so this is the answer. So there will be two groups used in the study. So both group was fed with ordinary maize food in pellets. However, the experimental group was fed with minced raw garlic. So while the control group received no raw garlic. So every twice a day they will be fed, and every once a week within 2 months they will be weighed and will accomplish a simple maze. Okay, I hope you get the correct answer in our uh, test. Okay, let's proceed. So situation 2. Situation 2, a group of grade 12 researchers believe that stress management symposium will help the grade 11 students experience a faster recovery in completing the stressful task. To test their claim, the experimental group, which will be composed of 30 grade 11 students, undergo a stress management symposium. Control group of the same number of grade 11 students will not receive any interventions. After the symposium will be given, researchers plan to give stressful tasks to the experimental and control group. They will give the stressful task twice a week within a month. So while completing the task, they will record the length of time. Okay, so you answer the activity. Okay, so let's check your answer. Okay, here, so this is a classic experimental design. So there will be two groups used in the study. Both groups will compose of 30 grade 11 students and will be given a stressful task. However, the small group will undergo stress management symposium while the control group will receive no intervention. So every twice a week within a month, full tasks will be given to them and the researcher will record the length of time of completion. Okay, so I hope you get the correct answers correctly. So I hope it's clear to you what is now intervention. Okay, so it is a way of interfering. Okay, you're trying to test your hypothesis also. Okay, so by applying the said intervention like this one. Okay, so if you have questions and clarification, so you can PM me in my Facebook account. Okay, so see you in our next lesson.